Hello, loves! So I ended up reading 12 books in November and I got some gems out of the bunch. So I'm really excited to share all of these goodies with you guys because seriously? Seriously? It was a good month for me. So I have kind of organized this by least to most favorite, but admittedly some of these were kind of hard. It's not a perfect order, especially considering I'm gonna start off with the two nonfiction books of the month, which I actually adored both of these books. I would arguably say they were both 5 stars, and that's Storyworthy by Matthew Dix and Save the Cat Writes a Novel by Jessica Brody. This one is just about storytelling with your own life, basically, how to be a better storyteller in general and how beneficial it is in every aspect of your life. And then this one is about how to craft a novel utilizing the Save the Cat story beats that was originally created for screenwriters. So these were great, absolutely adored them. Like I said, both of these are 5 stars for me. So again, going from least favorite to most favorites. And my least favorite book of the month is actually Devil House by John Darnell. So as you guys know, in November, I was participating in NaNoWriMo and I was working on a haunted house story. And so I wanted to read some haunted house books, which didn't quite work out the way I was expecting because this isn't it. This is kind of more of a true crime sort of scenario. It was very dry. It was very boring. It's about a writer who buys a house so that he can learn as much about the awful things that happened there and write about it. And so it's him going and trying to investigate the things that happened in this house. And again, it's very dry. It's very boring. It was very boring. I think if I was in the mood for true crime, maybe I could have enjoyed it more, but that's not what I was expecting. So I was just really disappointed and I was waiting for something to happen. Like the whole book was me just waiting for stuff to happen. So this is like a 2-star for me. It wasn't horrible, it just wasn't my cup of tea and I was very disappointed. And then I guess warning, from here on out the books are actually pretty good. So next up we have An Arrow to the Moon by Emily X.R. Pan, and this is a Romeo and Juliet meets Chinese mythology modern day love YA story, and it's pretty much about these 2 kids in high school who end up falling for each other, and obviously there's issues and then there's a bunch of these other things going on, and there's this kind of magic realism, mythology things, and I thought it was all really fun. I really enjoyed it. I love the way that it ended. It is definitely YA, which isn't necessarily my favorite, but I did think it was cute. I liked learning about some of the different things. There were some things that I loved, some things that I didn't. In general, I enjoyed it. So this would be a high 3 stars for me. Then next up we have Velvet Was the Night by Silvia Moreno Garcia. This one I was expecting to be a little bit more film noir-esque mystery situation, but instead we kind of had these 2 characters. One was part of a government gang, basically like a government sanctioned gang, and the other was basically like an assistant at a corporate lawyer job. Her neighbor, who she is cat sitting for, ends up going missing, and the guy who is, a sanctioned government thug is supposed to be hunting down this person for his boss. So things kind of intertwine. We learn about a lot of stuff. There were some things that I really enjoyed about this book, but there was also some things that I wasn't a huge fan of. For instance, our main character is just turning 30 and the other character I think is 19. And although they don't really interact much in this book, it's kind of their different worlds dealing with a similar thing, and you know, that experience. There is this kind of like Romeo and Juliet vibe that I ended up getting, especially because one of the characters is aware of the other one, and how they speak about them just made me feel that way. And there was part of me that was kind of like, yes. And then I was like, wait, isn't he like 19? Like, he might be a little bit older, but I'm not sure. And so that always kind of threw me off. So I don't know. I still enjoyed it in general, but it wasn't a favorite. Like, it just wasn't what I was expecting. And I don't like love how it ended up being, but there's some parts that I really enjoyed. So I don't know, it's hard. So yeah, this one is another high 3 stars for me. Then we get to a cute, charming as a verb, YA romance by Ben Felipe. And this is about a kid who is a hustler and who has basically created a dog walking scam so that he can make some money on the side. He's an actual dog walker, but he created a fake website and a bunch of like fake references and stuff, and you know, has made people believe that it's a full-on company when it's really just this one kid so that he can do this. And his neighbor finds out about the scam, and because he happens to be charming and popular, she basically blackmails him into getting her an in their school and stuff like that. And things happen, romance ensues. It was really cute. There were some things that I really ended up not loving that happened kind of later on, and that made me go from loving it to just really liking it. So this had the potential of being a 5 stars, even though it is a YA romance. It was super adorable. I like the characters. I like the chemistry. There was just some things that I just like, oh, did it really have to be that? So this one is a low 4 stars for me. Then we have Star Daughter by Shavita Thakar. And this one's actually a little bit sad. This could be higher up on the list, but I was listening to the Scribd audio for it, and the audio just kept messing up, and so I don't feel super comfortable giving this one a super solid rating, because I'm pretty sure not only did I just miss parts of it because the audio just skipped stuff. I did read some, but it got really confusing towards the end, but also things were out of order. Like, it was a really, really bad experience. I actually canceled my Scribd after that because it's not the first time that's happened to me with the books. Actually, a lot of them recently have been like that. And so I need to just reread this. I did enjoy it regardless, which is why it's still here and it's pretty high up. We have our main character is basically the daughter of a star goddess, and she is on Earth and pretty much trying to hide what she is, but she keeps hearing the song of her mother and ancestors basically, and after almost killing her father, she follows the song to ask her ancestors for help, and it turns out there's a whole like tournament thing going on, and so she kind of gets thrust into this world and drama and stuff ensues. And I actually ended up really enjoying it. Like I said, despite all of the technical issues I was having with Scribd as a service, highly do not recommend. Like, I know some people use it and haven't had an issue, but I know other people were with me in saying that they were having the same problems that I was, and it's not worth it. Like, it really isn't. Why am I paying money to get like a bunch of messed up audiobooks, and some of them I don't even know. Like, I had the book with me, so I was able to see that they were skipping 8 and then 19 pages and then other, like, it was bad. But yeah, I still really enjoyed it, and I do want to read it again in the future to really see how I fully feel about the book in a more complete, accurate way. So I feel uncomfortable actually rating this one, honestly. Like, I can't really rate it because I read it properly. I finished it. I read all of it as far as I can tell, but I'm pretty sure things were messed up and that may have affected stuff. So not rating it, but I did really like it. Then we get into the POC book club pick, Fat Chance Charlie Vega by Crystal Maldonado, and I ended up loving this. I love this a lot. Again, another YA. This is more of a coming of age. There is a little romance aspect, but a lot of this had to do with our main character, Charlie Vega, dealing with her weight and her mother specifically, who had lost a lot of weight and was pretty much being kind of hard on her when it comes to her weight. So there's definitely a lot of family dynamics that we experience, and then there's also friendship dynamics that we experience, and then romance dynamics, and I think it was all done really, really well. I do have a whole live show discussion. We had a really good talk about it. I think this was a really good one, and so if you want to see more of that, definitely check that out, because yeah, this one is a good one. I ended up giving it 5 stars. I loved it. Next up, we get to another haunted house book that I ended up reading. And actually, now that I think about it, I don't know if this really should be here per se. This is White Smoke by Tiffany D. Jackson. And this is about a girl who ends up moving to a new house with her family after her mother ends up getting this really fancy artist deal with this place that is trying to revamp an old torn down area, and there are obviously some spooky things that happen. Now, our main character is phobic, basically, of bed bugs, and that ends up playing a big part, and she's also obsessed with weed. And so there's a lot of talk of her really wanting weed but not having access to it for most of the story. And then there's also several instances where she is terrified by bed bugs. And I don't know if you know, but I've had a bed bug experience in my life and it's horrible. And so hearing a lot of the stuff that she was going through and afraid of, I was all like, oh my God, same. Fortunately, I'm not as debilitating as her, but I have found myself naked in the living room, taking off all of my stuff after, you know, going on a trip and throwing everything in the wash before I could possibly contaminate my house, because that's a thing. I will say though, as much as I love it and I liked a lot of the commentary and the things that happened, there are some stuff that I was disappointed about. I was a little bit annoyed with all of the weed talk that ended up happening, and then it kind of went in a direction that I didn't really want it to go into. I don't hate the direction, but I would have loved it more if it stayed in another direction personally, but I did like what it did. So technically this isn't a 5-star for me, but I did really, really like it, and it's kind of like on the cusp. It's a high 4-star for sure. Then we have a Master of Jinn by Peta Jelly Clark, and I would like to put this up higher on the list, but admittedly, as much as I ended up enjoying the heck out of this, I don't really remember too much about it. The plot itself was relatively forgettable. It was a kind of political storyline in a clockwork steampunk world with a detective that is trying to uncover who's claiming to be the Master of Jinn and what is happening and all of the secret stuff. Like, there are some things that I remember really, really well, and I was like, yeah, that was really cool. But there's also other parts where I'm all like, but what exactly happened at this point, you know? So gotta take that into consideration. I did still really love it. I had a good time. I still enjoy Peta Jelly Clark's writing, and I am going to be getting the novella that comes after this that's in the same world, and I'm interested in that, and I will probably reread this in the future. But I am a little bit sad to say that it was a little bit forgettable despite how much I enjoyed it at the time. So I don't know, it can't be a favorite, but it was a 5 stars. I guess realistically it should be more of a high 4 stars considering that, but we'll see. I'll maybe after a second read that will change. Getting down to the wire, the next book we have is Under the Whispering Door by T.J. Klune. I loved this. I gave this a 5-star, obviously. I really enjoyed it. It's basically about a curmudgeon of a horrible dude who kicks the bucket and finds himself in the in-between pretty much, and it's how he experiences that, what he decides to do, what he learns, and all of this stuff. I think it was really cute, and I loved it. I loved it. I loved it a lot. I loved how it ended. I loved the conversations it had. It was a good time. Now, this is the same author who wrote The House on the Cerulean Sea, and a lot of people who read that first and then read this were disappointed. I guess they were expecting something else. I haven't read that one, so now I'm really excited to read it since I loved this one so much, but I'm assuming they're different, so keep that in mind. A lot of people who like the first one didn't like this. I don't know. I thought it was great. It was cute. It was thought-provoking. It was emotional. It had some heavy-hitting, hard topics. It did a good job, and I liked it. So 5 stars. And then the last book, and my favorite book of the month, is The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas. And this is another haunted house story. The vibes, the spook factor, all of the creepy things happening, everything going on. This was right up my alley. I absolutely loved it. We have a character who has fallen on hard times after her father is pretty much taken and killed by the government. Somehow. And so her and her mother have to pretty much go and live with extended family, not treated the best. So when she ends up getting a proposal for marriage, she ends up taking it, even though the guy is not great. Not great at all, but he has a hacienda, and a hacienda means safety and security for her future. And so she hops on this opportunity to secure. So this to her is a marriage of convenience, and unfortunately the hacienda isn't what she expects. Right off the bat, things go a little crazy. So this was a fun time. I loved the direction that it ended up going in. I wasn't expecting it. It's funny, it's one of those things that typically I'd be like, no, but like here I was all like, yes. I love so much, and admittedly I was hesitant at first, but then I was like, yes, no, yep, thank you, and then things happened and I was like, okay. I will say, part of me, I want more from it. I want more from it, but overall I loved it. I loved the vibes. I loved the journey. I loved experiencing all of the things that we experienced. And yeah, this 5-star favorite of the month. Highly recommend. Look forward to reading more from this author in the future. And this is it for all of the books that I ended up reading in November. If you read any of these, what you thought of them, if you had any favorites out of these, any of these that you are interested in reading, let me know down below. If you made it this far, include a taxi emoji, and I will catch you in the next video. Until next time, bye!